All right, we're going to take a journey to the most remote, most isolated, and maybe the most fascinatingly lonely place on our entire planet, a place called Point Nemo.
It seems like a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer, well, it leads us to a spot so incredibly far from civilization that its closest neighbors are often in outer space. No, I'm not kidding.
So here's our game plan for this journey. First, we'll figure out how you even find the furthest point from anywhere. Then we'll dive into what this beautiful, empty ocean is really like. After that, things get interesting. We'll explore its secret identity as a graveyard for the stars, look at our own unseen footprint, and finally, touch on all the myths, monsters, and music this place has inspired. Okay, so first up, how in the world do you find a place that's literally defined by its distance from everything else? That was the whole challenge behind finding what's officially called the Oceanic Pole of Inaccessibility. Think about it like this. If you were dropped in the middle of the ocean, where's the one spot that would give you the longest possible swim to shore no matter which direction you chose? That's what we're looking for here. For centuries, this was just a theoretical puzzle. Nobody could really figure it out. But then, pretty recently, in 1992, a survey engineer named Hrvoje Lukatela finally cracked it. And he didn't do it with old sea charts and a compass. He did it with a powerful computer program built to solve this exact massive geometric problem.
And this is the number that just blows my mind. 2,688 kilometers. That's nearly 1,700 miles. That is the absolute minimum distance you have to travel from Point Nemo to hit the nearest piece of solid ground.
And here's what's so wild about it, the geometric perfection of it all. See, Point Nemo isn't just far from one place. It's the exact center of a giant circle that just barely touches three equally remote spots of land. A tiny islet near the Pitcairn Islands, another near Easter Island, and one way down off the coast of Antarctica.
But this is the fact that truly puts its loneliness into perspective. When the International Space Station flies overhead, which it does pretty regularly, at about 415 kilometers up, the astronauts on board are closer to Point Nemo than any other human being on the entire planet. Let that sink in. So we know it's remote, we know it's lonely, but what's it actually like out there? Well, this is where we get to a really fascinating paradox. Point Nemo is at the same time a beautiful, vast, and profoundly empty oceanic desert.
The reason it's so empty is because it sits right in the heart of the South Pacific Gyre. Now, a gyre is basically a massive, slowly rotating system of ocean currents. Think of it like a giant, continent-sized whirlpool that's so stable it basically acts like a wall, blocking any nutrient-rich water from ever reaching the center. And this reveals the two faces of Point Nemo. Up top, the surface waters are a biological dead zone. They're so starved of nutrients that the water is some of the clearest on Earth. But deep, deep below, hidden in the mud of the seafloor, there's an incredible secret, a world of ancient life that's surviving in a way that seems totally alien to us. And the science totally backs this up. The amount of chlorophyll, which is the stuff that tells you there's phytoplankton, the very bottom of the entire marine food web, is practically zero. With nothing to eat at the bottom, there's nothing for bigger animals to eat either. So they just don't go there.
But this is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. Scientists drilled down into the seafloor, and they found microbes that had basically been asleep, dormant, for over 100 million years. And when they brought them back to the lab and gave them a little food, they just woke up and got active again. They survived down there, in the dark, basically fueled by nothing more than the natural background radiation from the rock. Incredible!
So, Point Nemo is this place of natural extremes, but it has another identity, a completely man-made one. You see, by design, it's become our planet's most remote junkyard, a graveyard for objects falling from the stars.
Yeah, you heard that right. For over 50 years, space agencies from around the world have been intentionally crashing their old satellites, their used-up cargo ships, and even entire space stations right here. The most famous resident so far is Russia's massive Mir space station. But the biggest of them all, the International Space Station, is scheduled to join it in its watery grave in 2031.
I mean, think about it. Bringing a 460-ton object the size of a football field down from orbit is, well, it's no small task. It's a carefully choreographed ballet of physics. After its orbit naturally gets lower and lower, other spacecraft will give it one last, perfectly timed push to make sure its fiery re-entry path goes directly over this empty patch of ocean. Okay, so that spacecraft cemetery is the stuff we dump there on purpose. But even here, in the loneliest place on Earth, our unintentional presence is being felt more and more. We're talking about pollution and the sounds of our changing planet.
Look at this. Data collected by ocean racing yachts brave enough to sail through this area shows a really shocking trend. In just 5 years, the concentration of microplastics has shot up by almost 8 times. That same massive gyre that keeps the nutrients out, well, tragically, it also acts as a perfect trap for our plastic waste.
And then there was the sound. Back in 1997, underwater microphones picked up this mysterious, incredibly powerful low-frequency sound that got nicknamed the bloop. For years, people's imaginations ran wild. Was it a giant, undiscovered sea monster? The truth, though, was maybe even more profound. It was the sound of a massive iceberg cracking and breaking apart in Antarctica, an icequake. A sound that's becoming more and more common as our planet warms up. So when you put it all together, the extreme isolation, the eerie emptiness, these strange, powerful sounds, it's no wonder Point Nemo has become this powerful cultural symbol. It's like a blank canvas for our greatest fears and our wildest imaginations.
I mean, the name itself, Nemo, is just perfect, right? It's a direct nod to Jules Verne's famous Captain Nemo, whose name literally means nobody in Latin. And get this, decades before anyone even knew Point Nemo existed, the horror writer H.P. Lovecraft imagined his sunken nightmare city of R'lyeh in almost the exact same spot on the map. And much more recently, the band Gorillaz used it as the setting for their album Plastic Beach, which takes place on a floating island made of our trash.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question. Point Nemo is just full of these crazy contradictions, isn't it? It's a natural desert that somehow hosts life that's over 100 million years old. It's one of the most pristine parts of our ocean, yet we use it as a cosmic junkyard, and we're filling it with our plastic. So the real question isn't just about what's at Point Nemo. It's about what this remote, empty place reflects back about us.